I want to introduce you to Joshua Green. Now, Joshua Green owns a trucking company in Taupo. Taupo. I think it's got a they've changed the names up in the North Island. You've got macrons over everything now. So there's a macron over the O. So I think, and somebody will tell me if I'm right or wrong, particularly who lives in Taupo, I think it's Taupo. Taupo. Is that right? It's a sort of long ooh. So somebody will tell me, right? And toe is obviously Taupo. Anyhow, we just used to know as Taupo, and I'm not going to change the ignorance of 60 years by just suddenly deciding to embrace the Maori language. Anyhow, did I say that out loud? No, of course I didn't. Thank God for that. Anyhow, he owns this trucking group, and he actually did something really stupid. One of his drivers got involved in an altercation, or one of his truck drivers got involved in an altercation with a ute. It wasn't personal, it appears, but they bashed into each other and they ended up in having a road accident on the Napier-Taupo Road. Now, if you know the Napier-Taupo Road, it's not too bad now, but it ended up its own controversy a year ago. In fact, a year ago, I would have been interviewing the Mayor of Hastings about that, and that was that they were seeking to impose throughout almost the entire route from Napier to Taupo, which is, I think, about 90 miles, so what would that be, about 130, 140k, an 80-kilometre-hour speed limit, which the government has just got rid of, and said, no, we'll go for the nanny state here, and so it's reimposed the open speed limit, or the 100k speed limit anyhow, on that particular road. Anyhow, on this particular road, Mr. Green and one of his trucks comes into altercation with a ute. There's an accident, and Mr. Green decides, at 50 years of age, the owner of Green, and the reason why I'm saying all these names, the reason of Green Transport, is he drives there. Mr. Green makes a dick of himself, does Joshua Green. So much of a dick of himself that he gets arrested at the scene for obstructing a police officer in the execution of his duty. He gets arraigned in front of a judge, a district court judge. Mr. Green says that he wasn't obstructing him, and he even makes a complaint to the Independent Police Complaints Authority about the conduct of the police. But at the end of the day, Joshua Green is still a dickhead, and he gets convicted. He is convicted by the judge in the district court. His name, Judge Hollister Jones. Now, just remember in this particular story, Judge Hollister Jones is the goody judge. Okay, so we're going to run into a couple of judges' names. Judge Hollister Jones, hyphenated, he's the goody. He's probably an ex-ringy, actually. And then, a name like that, and then, incredibly, instead of accepting that he's been convicted of obstructing a policeman in the course of his duties, making a dick of himself at the accident scene, getting in the way of the police, even after he's been told not to, taking photos of the ute while people are still getting extracted from it, that sort of thing, just a complete moron. So after he's discharged, after he's convicted of that, and he's fined $500, which doesn't seem particularly excessive to me, and he's launched his complaint to the Independent Police Complaints Authority about the dreadful police, which is not upheld, surprise, surprise, Mr. Green decides, from Green Transport, to appeal his particular conviction. And he appears before the bad judge, Justice Peter Andrew, in the High Court at Rotorua last month. And in the last 24 hours, Judge Peter Andrew in the High Court at Rotorua has released his a judgment in connection with the appeal that was opposed by the police. All right, now in his judgment, and this is really quite important, and this is all that is wrong with New Zealand. In his judgment, Justice Andrews says there's no merit in the argument that Green had not obstructed the senior constable. So the High Court judge, Justice Andrew, says that, yep, he was a dickhead. He did get in the way of the police. He was deliberately obstructing them from going about their job. In the wake of a relatively serious accident, he did everything that the police accused him of. Right. So far, so good. But then the judge heard the fact that the Greens' appeal was all about actually him being Maori. Now here we go. Here we go into our descent into the logical maelstrom, which is New Zealand in 2024 and the New Zealand court system. Basically, Mr. Green's appeal was based not on him being a dickhead, because everybody agreed, except Mr. Green apparently, that he was. It was that Mr. Green is a Maori. Cool, yeah. And if Mr. Green was convicted of this offence, of which he apparently is guilty, he would suffer because he's Maori, and it would diminish, these are not my words, it would diminish his mana. Okay? Now, you and I would think, and when the district court judge heard that judge, this is the good judge, Judge Hollister Jones, he went, whoop-de-doo. That's what happens when you get convicted of something. It diminishes the mana of everybody. So whether you're caught drink driving or being a dickhead at an accident scene like this dude, or, stealing a car or a bike or something like that, or $39 worth of goodies from Woolworths, of course it's going to diminish your mana. That's the consequence of you committing an illegal action. No, Mr. Green's lawyer and Mr. Green said, no, but we're a special case. We're Maori. Oh, tell me how this works, says Justice Andrew. Well, Mr. Green was a kaumatua. He's 50 years of age, okay? He's 50 years of age. But apparently, according to Mr. Green's defence, Mr. Green was a kaumatua and a leader within Ngāti Tuwharetoa, which I think is the tribe around Taupo. He was described by the chair of the Tuwharetoa Maori Trust Board, John Bishara, who I must declare I know, as a great leader in our community. He was the director of the Central North Island Wood Council. Oh my God. And he was an elected trustee for many Maori land trusts. And his company, Green Transport Limited, was a strong supporter of local community sports clubs. But it wasn't that got Mr. Green, well, I'll take you to that in a second. It was that Mr. Bishara then went on to say, and this is Mr. Bishara, the chair of the Tuwharetoa Maori Trust Board, that if he was convicted, that from a Maori perspective, whakama, it's got an A, another one of those macrons over the last A, whakama, shame, embarrassment and loss of mana is a very real and deep burden and or penalty for a Maori person to carry, and is a very real consequence of a conviction. And on the basis of that application from Mr. Bishara of Tuwharetoa Maori Trust Board, basically, Justice Andrews said, I find that the consequences of a conviction on Mr. Green, and in particular the impact on his mana, would be significant. So, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to strike out the conviction, and I'm going to discharge you without conviction. And then, just as Mr. Green is heading for the pub with a big smile on his face, Justice Andrew almost calls after him and says, a discharge without conviction. These are not my words. These are Justice Andrews. A discharge without conviction can serve to restore or prevent the loss of Mr. Green's mana. I couldn't make this up if I tried. This is, without question, racist practice and racial preference from the New Zealand legal system as now being practiced by the High Court of this country. No one else except a Maori leader could get away with what Mr. Green has done. He has committed a criminal act. He's made a dickhead of himself. He's interfered in an investigation in the rescue of people caught up in an accident. He's been a complete moron. And I'm actually raising this because I think there is a program and shame that should attend Joshua Green of Green Transport in Taupo. And it's stunning that this man now has been treated in such a way and with such racial preference by the High Court of New Zealand. I'm not talking about by stuff. I'm not talking about by, Radio New Zealand News. I'm not talking about all those wokesters that might be putting together tonight's news bulletin for TV and Z News. No. I'm not even talking about them. I'm talking about something that's meant to be blind in terms of its partiality, that's meant to be just in terms of the court sentences that it displays, and fair irrespective of who turns up before it. In other words, I'm talking about the New Zealand court/legal system. We rely upon that to being our bulwark, the rule of law for democracy in this country. And the rule of law is that everybody gets treated the same, irrespective. That's as basic as the law should be. And this isn't about protecting the victims of sexual abuse, so you don't tell them that the dad is the father, so he actually gets name suppression, which is always hung heavy with me, I have to say, but at least I get some sort of understanding of the logic. You're trying to protect the victims of dad's sexual offending, so therefore they might, in those particular circumstances, get name suppression. But I tell you what, they don't walk out of the court free and get discharged without conviction. They're in prison. This case is a man, because he's Maori, and he's a 50-year-old, and everybody says he's a Maori leader, and he would be ashamed. Now, just think of this one, for example. The implications of this judgment are that every Maori leader, anybody with a degree of mana, who commits any criminal offence, can now use this defence to get off scot-free. It will diminish my mana. I will have shame. I've done something criminally wrong. It's an offence against the Crimes Act, but it doesn't matter. I'm Maori. I'm a leader. Now, how many white leaders are in there in this country that would equally and easily surpass or equal Mr. Green's mana in the community at large? What, thousands, tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands, who have roles, responsible, community, run a business, all those sorts of things. Probably you, listening to me now. But you're not Mr. Green, Maori leader. He's judged by a separate strain of events. He gets off to walk scot-free. He can commit crime because he is a Maori leader. And now we have a justice system in this country, in New Zealand in 2024. It was bad enough when it started tinkering with let's talk about tikanga Maori, but now we see the practical application of tikanga Maori in our courts, and the High Court say, walk free, young man, or in this particular case, fat middle-aged man, walk free because you have a brown skin and your forebears came here a bit earlier than anybody else's, so off you go. And you have this weird culture of shame, and apparently shame's a really bad thing, so we don't want to shame you even though you've been a dickhead and a criminal. Joshua Green, you are a dickhead and a criminal in my book and in the book of everybody else, but that's you. I'm worried about Justice Andrew. I'm worried about the fact that this infestation, this isn't just wokeness, this is racial preference, this is racial bias, this is the fact that there is one group of citizens in this country who are much more important than anybody else, and they just happen to be the ancestors of people who got here a bit further beforehand, and all the rest of us now are second-class citizens. Justice Andrew, New Zealand legal court system, welcome to creating a non-democracy in this country. Welcome to creating a legal apartheid in New Zealand.